I happened to catch this article from the East Village Times. This is written by James Clark, who is also the editor-in-chief over there. I learned that because I read all the way to the bottom of the article. But if the screenshot here doesn't give it away, he is proposing a trade to happen between the Padres and the Orioles that would benefit both teams, at least in his view. I'll have to wait and see how the Orioles fans feel about this. Well, it's a blockbuster.
You know, Orioles fans most likely would appreciate any trade at this point.
Yeah, I don't know how they feel over there in Baltimore this year, but like you were riding high and riding the wave for the past, what, two and a half seasons, and then all of a sudden it just comes to a crashing, screeching halt. Like, it is one of the most bizarre collapses I think we've seen in a while. But I would argue that the Orioles have made very poor choices with how they've cashed in a lot of their chips, and they have themselves to blame for the situation they find themselves in. There was better pitching available last year, and they had better prospects to offer, I think, for what they got in return. That's just my opinion. You can argue with me till I'm blue in the face, but, you know, when I look at the Padres landing Tanner Scott and Jason Adam last year on their team at the trading deadline, and the Orioles didn't grab those arms while they lost their closer, Felix Bautista, last year.
Yeah, what do you do with that?
What are you doing? And, oh, by the way, I think Brian Hoeing came over in one of those deals, and he could have been a spot starter for the Orioles when they needed starting pitching. So I really feel like they screwed the pooch on this one, and I feel like they might have to do something crazy like this to potentially right the ship or make up for it.
We will wait and see.
But they already fired their manager this year. They're already like 15 games below 500 or so. I haven't checked the standings this morning.
I don't think they have changed much.
But they were 15-30 the other day. So, yikes. Not what I expected at all with this awesome, like, young talented roster. But at the end of the day, if you don't have any starting pitching, like, you're not going to get moving.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, number 35 on the screen right there is struggling mightily this year. Maybe he needs a change of scenery already.
All right.
Well, let's get into the article, shall we,
Sure.
Nika? This is the subheading here. It says, here is a blockbuster trade idea that would make a huge difference in the San Diego Padres' 2025 season and help the Baltimore Orioles restructure for next year and beyond.
Okay.
So here, let's get into it. The first sentence says the San Diego Padres started the 2025 season as one of the best teams in the league. Yes, that's true, Nika. I watched them do it. They were 15-4, probably 15-5 at one point, 16-6. I remember some of these records. We currently stand 30-22 after last night's home victory against the Miami Marlins. I almost said Florida. In extra innings, in 11 innings. So, all right. Well, can you continue to the next paragraph? It says, over the last few weeks, the team has come down to earth, and several factors have contributed to their return to normalcy. The lineup lacks depth as the bottom third has turned into a group of easy outs. The Padres are getting very little production from the left field and catcher positions. Elias Diaz and Jason Hayward are not the answer moving forward. The team needs to make a move.
Agreed.
I would agree with a lot of this. You know, I don't know all the reasoning behind the Jason Hayward signing in the off season, but I think they were looking at, you know, veteran, cheap contracts, guys that they could come in and compete for jobs. And I don't think anyone really dazzled enough to move the needle, so they just went with the veterans. And I think this was always going to be planned in a way to be fixed as the season went on, unless like Hayward started playing out of his mind. He has not. Elias Diaz is a little bit different. They picked him up last year off of waivers when the Rockies kind of like shockingly released him. I thought it was a great pickup at the time for the Padres because Luis Campusano, as we've discussed, has played horrible defense. But the bat has not even come through that much. And
which bat? Campusano or
Elias Diaz
Oh,
at the catcher position I'm talking about. And Campusano, while he does hit well in AAA, He has yet to show up in the major league level, but
Never
also
transfers.
he cannot catch. So
Yeah.
he's not really a viable option to come in and help you out on defense at all.
Right, and this is a very hard piece to trade.
It is.
So-
Finding a good catcher is a really hard piece to find. So
Mm-hmm.
enter the Baltimore Orioles. The article continues, the Baltimore Orioles enjoyed a fruitful 2024 season, finishing 91 and 71. The Padres were 93 and 69 by comparison. 91 and 71 and 3 games behind the Yankees for the AL wildcard. The Orioles are 18 and 34 this season. So, yeah, we've fallen into like 16 games below 500 now, at least as of yesterday. And they are already 14 games behind the Yankees. Ouch. That is horrible, Nika.
And that's a very hard division.
Very hard. And they are in last place now in that
Yep.
division.
They're like the White Sox of that division.
The fans are up in arms. The Orioles already fired their manager, Brandon Hyde, as he was the scapegoat for the poor start. They are 3-7 in their last 10 games, and clearly the 2025 season is over for this group. Now, look, I'll never say never in baseball, but this is bad. This is a bad collapse. Like we said, this was a 91 and 71 team that is now. They were 20 games over 500 last year, and they've fallen. That's a 36 game swing in like months, and it's mostly the same group. So
They haven't They didn't do a good shakeup with
No.
the group.
Like
They
I
just
said,
kept.
they haven't cashed in their chips properly.
Yeah, they had a plethora of young players. 2023, that's when they did really well, and after that, it was just down.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's continue. This is
Okay.
a long little article here, but it's a really great idea, I think. Examining the rosters of both teams presents an idea. I like ideas, Nika.
Of course.
Cedric Mullins is enjoying a productive season and is due for free agency at the end of the year. The Orioles will likely not re-sign the center fielder, and he makes a ton of sense for the Padres, who crave production from the left field position. There are already reports that the team is actively looking for help. Yes, Kevin Acee has reported that the Padres are shopping around for a left fielder. So I think the Jason Hayward experiment is
Over.
virtually all but over. He's actually on the injured list again, and so he's not available even at all right now. The Padres have been trotting Brandon Lockridge out there, but I don't think he's the answer. He's a great speed guy off the bench to, pinch run when you need somebody maybe late in the games, or a defensive substitution potentially, but not the bat we're looking for in the left field spot. All right. Well, if you continue on, this was I had to screen grab this article strangely because there's so many damn ads on it. So this is just 2 sentences here. It says the Padres would surely have a ton of interest in him, but why stop there? Here is the idea. The trade. You got it up, Nika?
Yep, I got
All
the
right.
trade.
The San Diego Padres trade Ethan Salas, Randy Vasquez, Wandy Peralta, Brandon Lockridge, Isaiah Lowe, and Boston Bateman for Adley Rushman, Cedric Mullins, and a lower level prospect
So Cedric would be a loner
for a year.
for a year,
But Adley is different.
right? Because he's in his rookie contract or arbitration.
He's in
first
arbitration one. He will have 2 years left after this, and he's not having a great season so far, as we're going to find in a minute.
So that would benefit him greatly because of the scenery, change of scenery. We always say that you change the scenery and the players come alive or they just die. Depends where you go.
Sure.
But Padres have pretty decent coaching staff.
Yeah, and they want to win. So
that's true.
You go from a team that's 16 under to a team that's like right now 8 over. It's a 24 game swing in terms of like how well you're doing. You get rejuvenated a little bit just by being around a team that's above the 500 level. Obviously, the big heartbreaking piece of this proposed trade is the pictured player here, and that's Ethan Salas. And he's only 19 years old and has been touted as high as like a top 10 MLB prospect. He's fallen in recent lists, if you will. He's not necessarily performed as well as people would like to have seen last year in A-ball and then this year in Double-A. He's now actually on the injured list with a stress reaction in his back, which sounds awful if I'm a catcher. So
Trade him.
nevertheless, I do think that there is going to be an okay future there right now. Like, he's 19, and by all intents and purposes, this back thing isn't serious. He's going to return and play baseball again this year.
Sure.
All right, so if you want to flip to the next slide, it said, why would Baltimore do this? Okay. Adley Rutschman? Really? Yes, it may be possible. We know Rutschman is the franchise's darling, but his numbers have soured every season since he entered the league in 2022. His numbers this year are down even more as the backstop sits around the 200 average mark with his average and currently owns a 569 OPS. Ouch. 569. A 299 on-base percentage, under 300. This is Adley Rutschman we're talking about.
I know. I had him in my fantasy, and I had to drop him.
Drop it like it's not hot.
Right.
The team is concerned and may choose to max out on his trade value now. With 2.5 years of control, a team should expect to pay a hefty price tag. So you called it 2.5 years of control here, and I don't think Baltimore is just going to let him go away. But as you can see, there are reasons why they might want to. And this isn't even the jackpot yet. Let's flip to the next slide because the article continues. The Orioles' top prospect right now, the top prospect on their whole team, is a catcher named Samuel Basallo. I'll say Basallo. He's from the Dominican Republic, and it says the 20-year-old is playing really well in AAA and is ready for action in the majors. He is a left-handed hitter with an amazing arm and a powerful swing. He also grades as a 55 with his hit tool. He is the number 16 prospect in all of baseball. Losing Rutschman would hurt, but the team has a homegrown talent ready to step in immediately. Salas may take a few years, but he provides insurance to the team and a future at the position. I also screen grabbed Samuel Basallo's stats here from his minor league career and from AAA this year. And as you can see, his average is down almost 40 points from what he's been hitting in his career in the minor leagues. But he still has a decent power stroke, 9 home runs this year, 59 in his career. His on-base plus and his OPS, 909. He's got a 900 OPS in the minors. So, I mean, not a lot to complain about.
No, but I'm always hesitant how it is transfers to the majors. It's great numbers for the minors. Whether that translates to the majors, it's hit or miss.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm actually okay with Baltimore trading us either one at this point.
I would like Adley Rutschman in the Padres uniform for sure.
I would love it, but this guy doesn't look half bad.
No.
I would take my chances with him
Because
if it came
he's a
to
lefty.
it. I love that he's a lefty, and I just think he would have a youthful energy at the position that we don't have right now. We have 2 guys in their late 30s or mid to late 30s playing catcher for us, and they're at the end of their careers. I don't mean to date them, but they
that's
are.
how it is, unfortunately.
It is how it is. And this guy's the number 16 prospect, and they say he's ready now. And this is
So
where
he's
I'm
being
asking, like,
held?
why wouldn't Baltimore just start to shop one of them? Like, you can't have both. It's time to shit or get off the pot, as the old saying
Basically.
goes. Like, and your season didn't go as planned. I get it, but that just forces the issue, in my opinion. They have to choose one or the other.
Yeah.
If you have a guy who's ready, and the only thing that's blocking him is the current guy, who, by the way, is struggling and isn't vibing anymore with the team, it sounds like, and the coaches, and is probably sad. He probably had a great relationship with the coach. A catcher usually does. So one of the closest relationships on the team, and he doesn't have it anymore. So
It's time to ship him up.
it might, and all right, well, before we get into all of our thoughts and repeat ourselves, let's finish the article.
Sure.
The Orioles will likely trade Mullins at some point. They will cash in and obtain prospects for the future. Yeah, I think he's definitely going to move. If he's on the last year of his deal anyway and they're not going to re-sign him at all, then they might as well try to
Get
make up
something.
for some of what they've lost with some of these bad deals that they made, and get some poker chips back.
Yes, 100%.
All right. So as we flip to the next paragraphs, this is where it gets interesting from the Padres' perspective. It says the Padres' return provides immediate help in the rotation with Vasquez and also gives the Orioles an option in center field after losing Mullins. Peralta provides relief help to the Orioles and a left-handed arm out of the bullpen. Bateman and Lowe are top pitching prospects in the Padres' system. And then there's Ethan Salas. Rushman is a two-time All-Star and is in the prime of his career. He's 27 years old. The Orioles would require a safety net if Basayo were unable to perform for the team behind the dish and needed to be moved to first base. Salas is listed as the number 29 overall prospect in baseball, and his glove is a sure thing. Losing Rushman would be difficult, but the team could gain help in several areas with this proposed deal. All right. Well, if you flip to the next slide, it says, why would San Diego do this? Trading Salas is not ideal, but the window of competition is open now. And yeah, Jason Clark, I agree with you 100%. This is a tricky time in Padres history, right? We have this kind of financial handicap, if you will, that we're not spending a lot of money right now. And that's been made apparent. So AJ Preller's had to get more creative. And this is some of the kind of creativity that goes a long way because you're getting 2.5 years of control. And AJ's been smart about this. He did it with Michael King. He did it with Luis Ariz. He did it with Jason Adam last year.
Dylan
and
Cease.
Brian Hoeing, Dylan Cease. So he's attuned to this kind of a deal. All right. Adley Rushman gives the Padres a catcher through the 2027 season. Yes, he is not hitting, but we wouldn't even be having this discussion if he were. And I that's probably true. We would probably be talking about Basayo instead. The Orioles want to move this kid because they have their catcher of the future.
Yeah.
Getting away from the pressure of the Orioles' expectations may be just what he needs to reach his upside. His contract is not excessive, and that fits with the restraints of the current roster structure when it comes to money. Mullins would be a pure rental for the Padres for the rest of the season, but they need production from the left field position. So I, again, agree with him on all accounts here, and I think we talked about the change of scenery. We talked about Cedric Mullins and how, this is kind of like the two pieces we need right now to fill out our roster, and we'll keep going with the article. The Padres would instantly possess the best lineup in all of baseball. With 5 left-handed hitters in that lineup, the team would need right-handed counterparts for some of them. In the past, Cronenworth and Sheets have struggled without southpaws, but Merrill, Ariz, and Mullins will do well against them. Mullins owns a 922 OPS this season against lefties, so he's not bothered hitting against lefties, as opposed to a 759 OPS against righties. Thankfully, the majority of the pitchers in the league are right-handed, so this isn't a major concern. Vasquez would be a tough loss, but the Padres are preparing for Yu Darvish's return, and Kyle Hart is in the minors and capable of filling out the rotation for now. Matt Waldron is also close to returning and could be a factor for the club down the stretch. All right, well, a couple things. Yu Darvish, I don't know what's wrong with his elbow right now at this point, and I don't know if it's the best idea to just count on him like money in the bank. No pun intended to our WWE audience. Kyle Hart, up and down so far.
It's a 50-50 with this guy.
You don't know for sure what you're going to get. And Matt Waldron, I think
that's another one.
Nice piece as a 4th or 5th guy, maybe.
Maybe.
But he's not a playoff roster pitcher,
no.
At least in my experience with him so far. Can he come up and help us right now during this time while we have Michael King with his shoulder issue? Maybe, potentially. I'm not saying he can't. I just don't think he's an October Padres roster member.
Yeah.
The Padres could also add an arm in a separate deal if they feel it necessary. Peralta would be a salary dump for the Padres and help balance the budget. The Orioles need relief help, and the veteran could assist in that regard. Trading him would help offset the payroll in paying Rushman for the next 2 years plus.
I don't like that. I like Peralta on the team.
Wandy?
Yeah. Oh wait, Wandy Peralta.
You thinking about David from last year.
Yeah.
And he is unfortunately not on the Padres this year. A lot of people wondering where he is and why at least one of the 30 teams didn't take a flyer on him. That's an interesting one. But not the topic at hand for today. Nika, can you flip to the next slide? This is AJ Preller here's picture, and it says the chances of this happening. Nothing is ever out of the realm of imagination when it comes to AJ Preller and his baseball team. And yes, I got to admit right now, if there's anybody in baseball that's capable of pulling off this blockbuster trade, it's him. And we've seen him do this in May last year with a rise. There's no need to wait to the deadline necessarily. If you're sure that you want to do this, and as we go through the article, it sounds better and better to me. All right. It says, with that being said, there is a chance. Pulling off a deal with Rushman in it may be a minor miracle, but a Mullins deal certainly seems feasible. The Padres need help, and the Orioles will surely look for some prospects to round out their roster in the coming years. The Padres have a few that may be enticing to Baltimore. See, again, and I think you almost need to put a gun to the Orioles' head and say, like, choose a catcher, and we'll take the one you don't want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because at this point, it's like, it sounds like either one would be helpful to our team and help us reach our goals.
Well, either one of them will be younger than what we got.
Well, younger than what we got. You know, obviously Rushman has better experience in the major league level.
Sure.
And
but he's
can
struggling.
probably manage the staff a little bit better. And you don't know what a change of paint will do for him.
I know, but how hard was when you trade a catcher in the middle of a season to learn everybody's pitching style and whatnot? You know, you got to be a catcher for the pitchers.
Yes, indeed. Well,
it's a learning curve, maybe, at some point.
all right. Well, it says the Padres need to address the holes in left field and behind the plate. Since no clear replacements are in-house, a trade will be the only way to upgrade the roster. Yeah, I think this is where we're at. You know, Tirso Ornelas is not going to get another audition. His 11 at-bats or whatever he got are going to be it.
That was it.
Yeah, you can argue whether that's fair or not, but that's it. It's what it is. And I think they've made decisions on some of the other players. Campusano's next, you know, like he's 0 for 6 with like a couple walks, but he's been struck out looking more than once, more than twice. You got to swing the bat, son, at this level. That's all there is to it. All right. Well, the Orioles and the Padres make sense. If Baltimore throws in the white towel on the 2025 season, the Padres will surely be front and center. I mean, obviously they better be if they got to do their due diligence, you know, like you have to explore all options at this point. Preller and his staff are always on the lookout for an advantage. Landing a superior catcher like Rushman could catapult the Padres into a World Series title. The catching position is weak right now, and Rushman is capable of being one of the best in the game. The price would be steep, but the Padres are in a position where they need to step up to the plate. Trading multiple prospects and a few young major leaguers for immediate help seems imminent. And that's the end of the article, Nika. If you flip again to the next screen, I took it back to the title screen for us so we could talk about this for a second. But do you think what do you think the odds are of this trade happening after reading through the article?
The odds? 50-50.
50-50. Yeah, I mean, that's not bad, is it?
No, I do like the trade. I do like the creativity of it because I don't know if Padres trade with Orioles a lot. I don't remember. I don't know
either. I don't remember that.
But either way, I think those are very valid points. They need immediate help. They need catching help, and the left field. So it checks all three boxes.
Yeah, it's a really creative article. I want to say kudos again to James Clark for proposing this idea because this did not occur to me. You know, like I had my eyes on Cedric Mullins I don't know if I had such a keen eye on like the Orioles farm system to know that they have Basayo ready to come up and possibly catch, and I guess that's the only thing I think the article failed to maybe explore is like, hey, if not Rushman, why not this kid potentially?
That's a good point. Well,
But I think you have to be sure that he's major league ready.
yeah, maybe that's the hesitancy because you don't know how he's going to pan out in the majors. We know it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Pisano, prime example.
100%. I mean, and then you can get a couple of younger players from the Cubs that are very similar in this regard with Owen Casey and Ballesteros. Moises Ballesteros? I can't remember his first name now. But the young catcher that is on the Cubs, he's already been called up. So you have options, it sounds like, for the Padres to explore when it comes to filling these positions. But I do love this lineup, going into the dog days of summer and into October. And yeah, it would really feel like you have a chance to win.
I wouldn't be surprised if they get Cedric. That wouldn't surprise me at all. But what do you give up for him? Whether he comes with Adley Rushman, that's a different question.
Yeah, we talked about Ethan Salas in the middle of the article a little bit, and I stand by that. It would be a tough loss, like we've heard AJ Preller mention him, as one of the cornerstone pieces of the future. But at the same time, I think it changes every day.
It does.
As sad as we want to not admit that that's true, it does.
That statement was made last season.
It was.
That was
They were also talking about signing Roki Sasaki, and look how that worked out.
Exactly. And then things do change all the time, so you got to adjust.
Things change all the time. Michael King sleeps on his neck wrong, and he's not pitching the next day.
You should call the pillow guy.
He should.